Hello, welcome
Yay.
to our Moon Knight edition of the Vayman podcast.
Yes.
I'm the Duke of Homerton. This is the village idiot, Davian P.
You haven't missed a step, Manny.
I really haven't. It's a good thing we started off late. This gave me a chance to watch WrestleMania, which was actually quite good for once. It was actually.
Wait, has it finished?
No, night 2's tonight. Night 2. So they've done night 1 just now, like last night, and about 4 hours time is going to be night 2.
Oh, damn. So what was the main event in night 1?
Well, we're not here to talk about wrestling. We're here to talk about Moon Knight.
Spoiler!
But the main event was actually Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens.
Okay.
Which was
you've just muted yourself. You've muted yourself.
So I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
I knocked my microphone. So Moon Knight. We haven't actually had the chance to talk about this at all. What did you think of Moon Knight?
You know what? I thought it was absolutely amazing. This looked like it's going to be another one that they hit straight out the park. I mean, the cast and everything, just because for one, even, I'll call him Moonlight.
Okay, could we call it by what it's actually called, please? Because,
I'm trying to remember his real name. Based on like other programs that I've seen him in, he does not. You would never.
You mean Oscar Isaac?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd never actually. Thank you. You'd never actually picture him as a action anti-hero type. He doesn't have that look. He's more based on roles that he's done in the past. For instance, there are certain actors that can transition from action, serious to comedy, and they can pull it off. It looks believable.
Mm-hmm.
From his past work, I've never seen anything where I would have thought to myself, you know what, he could actually play a badass character and would actually have you intrigued and, on the edge of your seat, can't wait to know more about it. And he's done it so well. And I think it's kudos to him and just his abilities overall, because he goes from just being a hopeless loser nobody to just that whole transition in between him trying to find himself. And I just think it's the casting is just there again. Once again, it's just spot on. So
what did you think of his British accent?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I've got to admit, it took me a while to get used to, but once I got used to it, I thought, actually, no, you're actually doing a decent British accent here. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, considering also, because we all know when
you don't know
in a lot of things, when you're older, it's a lot more difficult for your brain to adjust with certain things. Like Tom Holland, as we see, he does a great American accent based on the fact that he's still young, so it's easy for his brain to maneuver and pick things up. Whereas when you're older, it's a lot more for you to try and digest. So I think for him, considering I've never seen him play any other British character before, he's done it very well under the circumstance with the pandemic and everything. So God knows how long he really had to actually get vocal lessons in terms of like coaching and things like that.
The pandemic might have actually worked out better for him because he could just do those lessons on Zoom and just dedicate hours on end to vocal lessons. But the fact that he is playing a character with a split personality, as Kay points out, does demonstrate that actually in this show we're going to see Oscar put forward and demonstrate to us all of his acting chops. We're going to see it all. We're going to see everything he's capable. He's going to have to go through the entire kaleidoscope of different emotions, different actions, different personality types. I think it's going to be a really interesting watch to that degree. Yeah. Let's talk about Oscar Isaac and just start with him. And this kind of links into the next point I'm going to make.
Yeah.
When they cast Oscar Isaac for me, my first thought was actually Rami Malek.
Yeah.
Would have been a really good casting for Moon Knight. But have you watched Mr. Robot?
No.
Okay, so the character he plays in Mr. Robot also suffers from kind of memory lapses, like he can't quite remember what's happened before when he takes on different personas because he can't quite remember before. So I don't know this. I haven't got Kevin Feige on speed dial yet. But I wonder if like someone like Rami Malek would have been considered for this role. But because he's already played such a similar character in Mr. Robot.
Yeah, maybe they didn't want to. They wanted to give someone else.
Yeah.
I think it's again, like I said, I would have never. If someone had said to me, "Oh, I mean, I didn't know much about the Moon Knight character in general," but if someone had said to me, "Oh, who do you think we're making this character is going to be badass action anti-hero? We don't quite know what yet," and they had like a list of actors, short list of actors, and he was on there. I'll be honest, I wouldn't look twice at picking him for it, because I'd be like, nah, I just can't see him pulling that off.
It's an inspired bit of casting. To be honest, I only know Oscar Isaac from Dune and Star Wars. I don't think I've seen him.
Yeah.
Anything else, to be perfectly honest?
I've seen him in, it's sad. It's one of those ones where, you've seen someone in something, but you can't quite, one of those ones where you're saying, he's in that film. What's that film called again? And you can't quite remember, but you've seen him in something. I've seen him in stuff, but I can't quite remember what.
Well, interestingly, in Star Wars, his character, Poe Dameron, was meant to be killed in the first movie. But he basically done such a good job being Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
That they kept him on. Are we keeping you away? He seems to be looking down and yawning.
No. You know what I'm doing, because I always get told off by you. I did a little cheating, so I've just brought up like the cast so I can get everyone's name and not mess.
Well, I'm never going to miss an opportunity to tell you off. It's my job to make you a better human being.
Yeah, so see, that's what I literally got. Got them up so I can be like, yep, X, Y, Z.
Oscar Isaac there copying my beard.
Yeah, he's got that Manny P look, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's next? He's going to copy your hairstyle next and glasses.
He may well dye his hair grey. I think we could both fall into that. I think as an actor, apparently he falls into a category called ethnically ambiguous. So he's like half Cuban and he's half like a Central American country, but he can play Arabs, he can play Asians as well.
Okay, yeah, true.
I'm sure if I ever,
because he doesn't have that. He doesn't have one stereotypical ethnic looks. He could, if you said, "Oh, he's Latin or he's this or that," he could actually pass as that. So
his name is actually Oscar Isaac Hernandez, but
okay,
they told him to drop to Hernandez for.
His name, yeah.
So I'll tell you, before we get into the meat and veg of the show, as we're talking about Oscar, for me, the scene where he goes on the date and he doesn't know he stood up the young lady from the British Museum, that's acted beautifully, because it shows so many things. It shows how put upon he is. He's a vegan as well, and he's at a steak restaurant, which is just hilarious. Well, not if you're vegan, it's not hilarious. And when they ask him, what cut of meat do you want? And he's just like, I'll have the best cut. Because he's got nothing. He could have so much, but he's got nothing. So he's just like, I'll just have the best cut. And then I know you like your steaks well done, but
yeah.
But to get the best bit of a steak well done is a crime in many a chef's eyes. So don't take it personally.
Okay, I won't.
I'm just saying, in general, like most people would see that as really kind of like blasphemous to get the best cut of a cow well done. But any views on that scene?
Well, I'll even go back just a little before that. I think when she came to him and said about the date, oh, steak, blah, 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 Friday, and he's confused. So I'm wondering if maybe when we get further along, we may get some flashback to see maybe his split personality was already making certain moves and like.
It's pretty obvious what's happened. Mark Spector's the one who's actually been he's the confident one. He's the one, making the moves and everything. Khonshu seems to trust Mark Spector a lot more than Stephen Grant. He refers to Stephen Grant as the idiot. He refers to Stephen Grant as the worm. In this, it's a bit how I treat you, actually.
Yeah, at times, basically, it's such love and admiration, it's a wonderful, relationship, like,
I'm making you a better human being. I hope you're thankful for one day. So yeah, I just loved that scene. It was great. So let's just get straight into it. So we've seen the episode. There's a lot going on. We've got a character. I mean, to point it out there now on Front Street, I have never read a Moon Knight comic in my entire life. I got halfway through issue 1 of Moon Knight on the Marvel Unlimited app. Got a little bored, if you want me to be perfectly honest. It was from the 80s. The story was regarding a villain called the Bushman. And before you opened up the comic, a disclaimer comes up basically saying, yeah, like some of the themes in this comic, they're probably a bit racially insensitive.
Yeah, because Bushman, and then you see how Bushman looks. It can be interpreted like, what are you trying to say? Because he's that color, he's a Bushman.
Basically, yeah. So, but back then you got to remember, like the same level of understanding and wokeness didn't exist in the 80s that it necessarily exists now in the 2020s. So let's get into it, man. Like, I think. So we've got Stephen Grant. He's working in a
it's like a museum, like the artifact store, like like the.
It's the British Museum, baby. It's the British Museum. It is actually the British Museum where a lot of it is shot.
Yeah, so it's like the gift store.
Have you been to the British Museum?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so in the British Museum, they've got this atrium in the middle where they do the exhibitions, and on the middle bit of the atrium,
the
center circle, that's where the gift shop is, and they've pretty much done it as it is in real life. They have filmed it in the British Museum, actually. So he knows there's something up with him. He's handcuffed himself to his bed because he thinks he's sleepwalking. He's surrounding his.
Whoa! Why you listen? If the man believes it, man, you can't put it in quotes.
Listen,
he believes that.
Listen here. Just because somebody believes something doesn't mean it's true. We've established this. He's putting sand around his bed because he's kind of like thinking, well, like I've got to see, like, have I left my bed, for example? He's putting tape down his door.
Yeah.
So if he leaves, now I don't know what he thinks sleepwalking is, but I'm pretty sure, like, sleepwalking, maybe it can make you, like, undo tape from the door and whatnot.
Well, you don't really know, because remember, there has been cases where you see people who are sleepwalking. Some people go into the kitchen and make themselves a sandwich or get a drink, so you don't really know how efficient the brain is or what part of the brain is actually working when you're sleepwalking.
Yeah,
as opposed to what's shut down. So maybe he has a point where he's setting up all these traps to try and keep himself entrapped because he doesn't know what he's capable of when he's sleepwalking.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's what's going on. And he goes to the gift shop and he meets. We see his working life, and he's always staying up late. He's probably a bit like you in that regard. And we meet his horrible boss, Was she horrible? Or was she just a bit like me and doesn't like tardiness?
Well,
Who knows?
well, I don't know if I would necessarily say it's her. They may have a more personal relationship than we are aware of, which
Okay,
is
they're not sleeping with each other. I know you like to go back to everyone's sleeping with each other. They're not.
No. I don't think it's anything like that. But I think in the sense that because to how she's talking to him,
Come a long way.
you couldn't talk to someone like that, especially in this day and age, because they're still basing it off modern times. So it's not like this was based like in the 90s where there isn't certain, protocol put in workplace for, behavior and what could be deemed as harassment, bullying, or what. So in order for her to be like that, either she really doesn't respect him where she thinks he can't do anything any better in terms of taking any action against her, or they might just have that kind of relationship where she talks to him like that's like, maybe because she's like not just a boss, but maybe like a big sister, because she acts like that, like, oh, you're going out, she's going out with you. How you managed to pull that out, certain things that she says.
I think from a narrative point of view, the role of Donna, the boss, is just there to kind of double down on how much of a loser they want Stephen Grant to come across as. How put upon he is. He has this dream of being a kind of Egyptologist himself and being an expert in ancient Egyptian history and mythos. And, every time he says anything, he's just kind of shat upon. He goes to explain to that little girl about a few cool
she told him, like, you're just here to
Which is fair enough. I mean, to be fair, if you run the gift shop, go work in the gift shop. It's like if there's like a queue about 20 people and they're not being served, that's fair enough.
Jesus, Duke, you just really want to crush the guy's dream, isn't it? The man has dreams of being something else. You're like, nah, mate. Until 5 o'clock, the only dreams you should be having is the receipts and saying thank you. Please come back again.
Yeah, well, I'm not paying you minimum wage to dreams. God's sake.
Yeah, to have dreams and ambition. Like, no, I'm here to crush your soul. Well, I'll get the most out of you.
One thing I think the writers have probably underestimated is that if you're working in a gift shop in central London, you're not going to be able to afford a flat like the one he's in. That's just not going to happen.
True. But then, based on how it sounds, it seems like he's a very qualified person. He's just in that position, which means...
So, above his bed, there are lots of books in Egyptology. Yeah. So, he is studying himself, but there's nothing to suggest that he himself has got a degree in Egyptology or ancient history. So, it does seem to be like this is something very much which is a interest of his.
So, like a hobby that he's taken...
He's been pursuing
very far.
Well, why has he got this hobby? I don't know. But
maybe it's a subconscious thing where, maybe like, his split personalities have been slowly, programming him to actually check certain things out without him actually realizing that he's being controlled, like, groomed in a sense, in the polite way of putting it.
Well, this is the question we have to ask ourselves. So Kay says here, the clues are there for Steve Grant's make-believe life. Whilst we're watching this series, we're going to have to continually ask ourselves the question, is what we're watching actually what's really happening? We're seeing everything through Stephen Grant's eyes. The writers have said that they've kind of taken a bit of inspiration from Fight Club, which obviously we all know.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a bit of Memento probably thrown in there as well. Another great movie. Haven't seen Memento.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, there was an episode of Buffy where they kind of hint that actually maybe the entire Buffyverse might be happening in the brain of Buffy because she's going through a kind of like a mental breakdown, and she's like concocted this entire universe in her brain, which she falls back into whenever things get too much for her. And the episode ends and you don't know, 1 second, is Buffy the Vampire Slayer real, or is Buffy the person in the
mental illness
institution ill? you know, which one's actually the real universe? And I think we're going to see a lot of that, like what is real, what isn't real.
Yeah.
A few examples of this are, well, a few points coming out that are, we see Stephen Grant talking to his mum on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, has he got a mum? Like, I mean, and I mean that because...
Well, everyone's got a mum, but you mean, is it really her?
Yeah, but is he talking to nobody? Because if there are multiple personalities inside of Stephen Grant, because in the comics, Mark Spector, not Stephen Grant, is the main character.
Oh, so Stephen is like one of his personalities.
Yeah, yeah. And it's actually all very convoluted in the comics of how it works, and that Khonshu played, it's a bit convoluted. I think they're going to create the rules behind this split personality within the show. But if Mark Spector is the real, like, host of the body, then Stephen Grant shouldn't have a mum. So who's he talking to on that telephone?
True.
For example, when his fish suddenly grows a fin.
Yeah, grows back, yeah.
Well, it seems obvious to me that Mark Spector has somehow found the fish dead and thought, oh no, I can't let Stephen Grant find out that the fish is dead. Goes and buys a new one, but doesn't realise that he can't find one that has got two fins. I mean, sorry, only one fin.
One fin. So he just bought one with two fins and do think, oh, it's magically healed itself and grew back. And
yeah.
And it's not like, you know, a goldfish is like, you know, like a dog or a cat where you could say, well, I can see the difference. You know, that's not really my pet. You know, it doesn't really recognize me. You know, that goldfish is just swimming around, just doing what goldfish does type of thing or whatever. So, you know.
Or has Stephen Grant, or has that fish actually always had two fins?
True. Maybe his personality is getting it mixed up with something else, you know, like maybe what he thought he had. I mean, it's one of those ones, before we start having all these kind of brain teas, we have to watch a few more episodes, or else it's kind of like do your head in trying to think and figure out exactly
what this discussion is here for us to discuss all the ideas and to put it out there and see what's right and what's wrong. This is like WandaVision, where you're week by week.
Yeah, it's true. You don't know what's real, what's been conjured up through magic from what's actually happening.
Because to be honest, I watched the first episode and I shut off Disney Plus, and I wasn't 100% sure what I thought about it, if I'm to be perfectly honest. And then about 24 hours later, it just hit me that was really good. Once I kind of processed everything that happened in the episode, I was like, no, actually, that was really good. That was really quite something else.
No, I thought it from when I actually watched it. Like, you know, the minute I watched it, I thought, okay, wow, this is really good. Like, you know, I just loved it. And I think it's one of those ones again, because of the way, just the way that Oscar portrayed the character and how great his acting has been, in terms of he goes from where I already had a prejudgment of how he might be based on things that I can't quite remember what he's done, but I know he's done, which was nothing like this, to now seeing him do this, where I'm like, okay, wow, you know, he's actually like pulling it off. And, you know, it's like you see someone which you never expected that from them. You know, you never expected they had that kind of potential. And then you see them doing it. And it just makes you root for them even more. You enjoy it even more because they surprise you with what they actually were able to do. So you're just like, yeah, I want to see more of him. I want him to do more of this. I want him to do more of that. And I think, you know, again, it's just...
Okay, my brother's brought up an interesting point here. Stephen only speaks to his mum on voicemail. So, okay, I didn't pick up on that. I thought he was actually speaking to somebody, because I thought there were pauses, but Maybe I need to watch the scene again. But maybe he is just the same way how he talks to the street performer.
Yeah.
Just like talking to that person and they're not saying anything back. But he's just kind of just, it's a sign of loneliness more than anything. That, you know, he just needs something or someone to converse to, even if they're not conversing back. Maybe he's just phoning up a random number and just dropping in voicemails, believing it to be his mum. This could be quite a sad exploration. And I'm being serious. This could be quite a sad exploration of loneliness.
Or it could be one of them ones where if it's the case and he has got multiple personalities, in the case of like multiple, meaning more than 2, 3 or whatever, it could be one of his personalities leaving voicemail on the phone for him.
Well,
and then he goes back and he listens to it.
Not his personality's put on a female voice and hello, Stephen. Hope you've had your dinner.
Yeah, that can happen.
Okay, I think that's a bit far-fetched, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
Listen, dude, wake up and he's killing and doing all kind of things that he had no conscious
reality
that he was able to do.
That's more believable than him putting on a female voice and pretending to be his own mom.
He's showing what kind of range he's got already based on that one episode. So I'm not gonna write that off just yet. Like, you know, okay, I want to hear one of them voice notes there before I say anything. Like, listen, one of them voicemail.
Okay, I am. So he wakes up and he's in a European country, and we meet Arthur Harrow. Actually, no, we met Arthur Harrow in the first scene of the episode. He put glass in his shoes. And he has a little walk around in him.
Yeah, ugly shoes with a walking stick. And I was thinking, what is?
Hey, they're nicer than the Lonsdale shoes you were wearing last week. Yeah, say something back. Say something back. So you can't, because you know I'm right.
No, you're a hater. You're the second person to have a problem with my Lonsdale shoes.
Lonsdale, but
is it Lons? Yeah. See, that's how much I love it.
So you kind of do. Anyway, so he is partaking in some kind of act of self-flagellation. By the way, in the comics, Donna is a character in the comics, his boss.
Yeah.
She's actually his therapist.
Oh.
So maybe kind of, well, what we're seeing is kind of Donna kind of taking a step into his mind to try and coax him out and say, get your head out of the clouds and come back to me.
Get back to reality. You know, that's what you're doing. You're not that. You're not this.
Yeah. The street performer as well is a character as well in the comics. I've forgotten what their role is. But in the comics, Arthur Harrow, the main bad guy we saw, with the sick little scales tattoo.
Yeah.
Only appears in one issue of Moon Knight. He's just a one-off bad guy. Which is interesting. Maybe Marvel have just taken this character and kind of just taken him to be more kind of, maybe they wanted a clean slate of a character so they could
they look at a character and they think, you know what, we're not going to go with the norm of what you expect. We're going to look at someone who could possibly have potential and then just explore that character and
not even potential. I can do whatever I want with this character because they haven't actually got that much of a backstory. So I can, as a writer myself or a director, I can actually do all the backstory myself without the Marvel fanboys and girls kind of having a go at me on Twitter.
Yeah, true, because they won't have any inside information on that character if he's only just appeared in just one episode. Yeah. So you can't, whatever they just, wherever direction they decide to go with it, you can't say, well, no, that's not what he would have done because there's nothing on that character. So that is a brilliant strategy because
if that's the case, but there's another theory as well. What if Arthur Harrow, again, isn't 100% real, or not 100% what we perceive Arthur Harrow to be, and he is actually another character, and kind of this Arthur Harrow is just a guise
created by his mind,
or created by another character to hide who he really is. I think what this show is telling us is that we can't take anything for granted. Every single scene we've seen, we have to question everything. And I think episode 2, we're either going to start getting a few clues and they'll give us a few tools to hopefully start deconstructing and working out what's real, what's not real.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if episode 2 might be a repeat of episode 1, but from Mark Spector's point of view.
Okay, yeah. So it would kind of like be filling in the blanks of what we didn't know what, because technically a lot of the things that's happened, we're not seeing anything. We're just seeing, oh, he was surrounded. Next thing, oh, there's dead bodies there. Oh, there was cars on the either side. Now, dead guy in the back of the cupcake van. Dead guys on either side too. So that would actually be, that's a brilliant idea what you just suggested, if they were to actually do that, because it would still literally be like episode 1, but it's like a complete different twist to it, because now you're getting to see what you never saw, which will then give you a better idea of putting the picture together to say, okay, so this is what happened from both perspectives, because obviously a lot has happened in those 2 days that he went missing. Okay, CK just put up, spoiler, episode 5 and 6 are going to be very dark.
Yeah. So when I logged onto Disney Plus actually on Wednesday to watch it, I couldn't find it on my Disney Plus, and I had to get my VPN and change it to America. And then suddenly it popped up. But anyway, it turns out I couldn't watch it because my age restriction was set at 14, defaulted at 14 years of age.
You want to be a teenager again, eh?
I think we all want to be teenagers again. That means any shame in saying that. I wouldn't want to be a teenager now, though. Teenager back in the 90s and 80s, but not.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's
you rocking skinny jeans and doing the nay.
Yeah, that's a different conversation for another podcast. But yeah, like even the episode is called Goldfish Memory, and that's exactly what we're seeing Stephen Grant have.
Yeah,
the episode is called A Goldfish Problem, but what we're seeing is him having the memory of a goldfish. He can't remember what happened literally a moment before, which is apparently recent research suggests that goldfish's memory is actually a lot better than what we previously thought. But
goldfishes around the world are tired. Like, I'm sick of people always just, we're the butt of joke. Like, oh, got the memory of a goldfish. You don't know that. I can remember it. What were we talking about again? Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, interesting. I'm glad they pick up the pace again, because, like I said, Hawkeye was. I thought it was all right. It wasn't like wow, So I think this one, based on just this first episode from this.
Remember, you got really excited to start Hawkeye as well, episode 1. So just temper your expectations, breathe, just still be a bit open-minded, because I don't want to see you disappointed like last time, because you get all upset, you start behaving like a little baby, and you start just hitting out at people and just start ripping into people and storylines and writers. And it's, and it's all very immature and childlike. And I want you to just, as again, what I'm here to do, what the listeners and the viewers are here to do, is we're on a journey to make you a better person. So let's just start taking the next step now. Comments, agree with me, please.
Sorry, I can't remember. I've got goldfish memory. Repeat what you said.
I was just talking about how you're an idiot.
Okay.
It
slipped my mind already. Goldfish memory. But yeah, no, going back to what you were saying about maybe next week they could actually just do the other side of episode 1 to show us what we didn't see. Yeah. Because things like how the phone ended up where it ended up or whatever with all those missed calls, and so what else has been moved, hidden, rearranged that we don't know about, and why did they do that?
From what I can make out, I think Mark Spector can only take control of the body when it's either asleep or is under a great deal of stress.
Stress.
Yeah, that's what I've picked up personally. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just what I feel. So when Mark's asleep, so when Stephen's asleep, Mark can come too, go to his little cubby hole in the wall and get his phone out, phone up Layla. You know.
Sweet talking there, and then he has no clue about what was said. Like,
yeah. Like I wonder if Layla knows about the girl working at the British Museum. Yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff going on, but I love the scene where he ends up in Europe. I loved it when he gets up. His jaw is quite clearly dislocated, and he gets up off the ground, and he sees the guy in the window of the castle, and he waves to him. The guy like awkwardly waves back at him, and then they start shooting at him. I'm just ready.
Yeah, because what do? You know, you don't know what to do. You know,
Shoot him.
You randomly like, yeah, okay, yeah, he's waving. Oh, no, shoot him. We don't know what that wave means.
But then we see kind of he gets to the town centre. Still not sure what country he's in. You know, he's in Europe. I'm not sure which country.
And he's like in a little village.
Yeah,
it has that whole little village feel just by the look of how things are and the people. It's like, you know,
people on Twitter have speculated that castle looks a lot like Red Skull's castle, which will be interesting because that links onto another point I need to make at some point. So yeah, we see him and he goes and we see Arthur Harrow doing the thing where he's like, if you've been a good person, you're cool, but if you've been a bad person, then I'm going to suck all your life force away. And that woman was obviously a terrible human being, that little old lady, because Arthur Harrow sucked her life force. She was probably a Spurs fan.
Oh. And you thought that I was the villain sympathizer. See, Kay saying it looks like.
Kate's saying Latvia. Mr. Cato is saying Latveria. She's actually, that's two really interesting shouts, especially the Latveria one, because that's obviously the home of Victor Von Doom.
Oh.
Obviously, Latveria is a made-up country, just so everybody's aware. So yeah, and he seems to have some kind of scarab beetle which he's stolen from the castle, and they're going after it. And that's when Mark Spector kind of semi-takes over. And what I really liked was in the car, the cupcake van, as they're driving away, they're playing "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" by Wham.
Wham.
And I really liked that because it kind of had like a double meaning to it. Because is that Mark Spector kind of saying to Stephen Grant, "Wake me up so I can
before you go and before you die.
Wake me up before you go, before you die, before you go to the other side," basically.
Yeah.
Or is it kind of like he's actually the real Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, whoever this guy is kind of in a semi-conscious state somewhere, and there's somebody telling him to wake up out of this dream he's in?
Yeah, it could be like a case. You know, some people they have like certain triggers, what they use to like, you know what, if I'm going there, this is my trigger that will pull me back. Maybe that song might be his, where, you know, he said, you know, if ever you see me be, you know, like it could be like you said, he might be at therapy or something, and he's on the hypnosis, and they're, you know, what's going on, they're talking to him, and he's like, okay, you know, if I get too far in, you know, play this, that will actually bring me back or whatever. So that could be like his anchor.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't even think the lyrics to the song are quite important. Well, wait back before you go. I ain't planning on going solo. I'm just wondering if that's like Mark Spector saying, like, look, maybe me and Khonshu need to sort this out, because Khonshu does not like Stephen Grant in the slightest. Khonshu is the Egyptian god which has inhabited Stephen Grant, and Khonshu does not like Stephen Grant at all.
Well, maybe because he can probably see into him, to see what he really is. And
in the comics, Khonshu isn't a nice dude. He's a bit of a dick. He likes he likes Mark Spector because Mark Spector's like a rough, rugged guy. He's a mercenary. He'll get the job done. I think Stephen Grant just wants to learn about ancient history, just do his job.
Yeah, and then just get the girl and
Not even get the girl. It wasn't even him who chatted up the girl. It was Mark Spector.
yeah, but he looked like he's a lonely. Come on, he's just sitting there talking to her. His only companion is a goldfish.
Yeah.
So he does need, everyone wants someone.
Who would you rather be your companion, a goldfish or Jada Pinkett Smith? Anyway, we won't go there.
So is that a trick question?
No. We'll just move on.
I'll answer that in the debrief.
In the comments, let us know. Goldfish or Jada Pinkett Smith? Anyway, sorry. Goldfish. Yeah, and it's interesting because then he wakes up back in his bed.
Yeah, as if nothing.
Yeah.
As if nothing happened. Like
Mark
just thought it was all a dream.
Yeah, Mark Spector's just taken over things again, and then we see this really kind of. That was a slap in the face. Ha ha! Boom, boom.
Yeah, literally.
And then we actually see Khonshu actually appear in his flat, and Khonshu looks cool, man. He does look really cool. I like the way they've done him.
But remember when it first appeared, like in that same village, when he had the scarab in his hand, like for like a split second behind it.
Yeah.
And then it almost makes you think that maybe he knows more than he wants to let on, but he's afraid to admit it, because if he's afraid, if he doesn't admit it,
who do you think knows more, Stephen or Khonshu?
I think Stephen knows more, and he's probably playing ignorant. He knows that something's going on with him, but he doesn't want to admit it because he probably feels like maybe if I admit that there is something going on with me, that's kind of like accepting it, which would basically means I'm more susceptible to whatever that's going on with me to actually happen even more. So if I was just still playing ignorant, like I don't know what's going on.
I take your point. Like there's certain things he does want to accept. He keeps on saying things like sleepwalking.
Right, rather than admit, because he doesn't want to say the truth, what he knows what it really is, because if he does, then
I don't think he knows what it is, but he does want to investigate further as to what it could be. There's certain signs he's purposely ignoring. And then you see that Stephen.
One more point there, man. Sorry, I think there might be onto something with that, because I think it probably stems from his hobby of studying ancient Egypt. He may have done something, conjured up something,
maybe, yeah,
when he was researching, and he knew it, but he doesn't want to admit it. He's thinking it's a dream, but he's still, at the same time, he's still interested in what's going on.
Yeah. So our brother agrees. Stephen knows something is going on, but he can't put a finer on it. But yeah, but Stephen knows what's going on.
Yeah, I think K means
finger on it. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, if he was to put a $5, if it was a $5, K is thinking that's not really, well, maybe that's all he could afford based on his pay. Maybe
I mean, he paid for that flat.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that was number 25 plus he was catching. So that suggests to me that he lives in zone 2 or zone 3.
He can't afford more than a $5. So
I'm surprised he could pay for that steak. It's probably a good thing he stood her up. God, you don't be paying for two meals there. God,
probably one of those. What do you call them? What's it called? Dashers. Dine dashers. You know, you just eat.
Well, he was outside, so he could do that probably.
It makes sense. That's what he probably did, Manny. Why? You know, when after the next scene you saw after he left from the restaurant is he's got like a box of chocolate and he's just there sitting eating it like self-pity, like, oh, I hate myself. Maybe it's because he dined and dashed. Yeah, dine and dash. You know, he ran out. Now he's just like feeling remorse and guilt. Like, oh God, I can't believe
Was
I
the box
did.
of chocolates even with him in that scene? Did he just, as he's dashing away, do you see the box of chocolates on somebody's table, like a happy
Yeah.
couple eating together and just
Yeah,
chocolates, and thought he would take that as well?
yeah, just dash out, run out, you know, then a Usain Bolt running with the people's chocolate, not paying the bill. Yeah, it's shameful.
So
But yeah, I think it is, you know, going back to what we were saying, I think it could be a case of he actually conjured up something in his research into ancient Egypt. Because we all know some of these people, when they get curious, they get, you know, they just go all in. They get very deep inside it and go and, you know, mess with forces that's unknown to them that you shouldn't really mess with. And
Yeah.
now you're in this predicament right now.
or he's been pushed towards researching that because subconsciously he knows there's something going on. So as you said that as well, when he holds up the poster to Donna in the museum, he says, "Oh, they've got this wrong. There's actually like 9 gods, not 7."
Yeah.
So I think that means something as well. I think I'm not an expert on Egyptian mythology, so I can't tell you what that could potentially mean.
But again, it probably just goes more
for a reason.
Yeah, I think it goes along to, you know, the lines of what we're actually saying, that he actually went and he actually done something, and he's got a lot more knowledge than what he's aware of consciously, which is why he will, I think, probably throughout this series until he's fully aware of what's going on. There might be certain episodes where we might see little scenes where he's speaking while he's probably at work, and he'll just say certain things that you'd be like, oh, how would he know that, you know, whatever, like, how you know that type of thing or whatever. But they'll still kind of look past it. But, you know, it's just like little Easter egg to show you that he's got certain knowledge that he's not really aware that consciously of how he's gotten it or how he knows it. But he knows a lot more than what we're actually saying, because to know those kind of things, I mean, like you said, he hasn't got there's no signs of him studying like ancient Egypt or, you know, where he's got that as like a degree in that. So if he's only just been doing this as a hobby and now he's got all these knowledge where he knows all of that, you know, there's only 9, it means that he's been doing a lot of research, that more than what he probably realized, because it's clearly shown that by the fact that when he woke up thinking it's Friday, it was Sunday. So how many times has that happened before where he's missed out on days, you know, based on certain things that's happened and he doesn't even realize? So you don't know what he's been doing or what information he's been gathering in that time when he's actually like blacked out and not realized that he's lost 2 days.
Yeah, 100%. So it's probably worth knowing as well that there are actually other personalities. We've only seen Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. There are actually other personalities he has as well, which we may see in the course of this. And then he goes to, interestingly, Arthur Harrow's on the bus. I'm beginning to wonder, actually, now we've had this conversation, if actually Arthur Harrow might be another personality. I'm being serious, because he sees him on the bus, but Arthur Harrow doesn't do anything to him on the bus. So maybe he didn't want to do anything to him in public. Or maybe actually he sees him on the bus as a reflection or some kind of thing like that, because actually he is Arthur Harrow.
But what if, this is a strange one, what if,
I mean, but let's get as strange as possible, because I think this is where the show's going to go.
What if when he sees him, he doesn't see him as him? He sees someone else. It's a different image that he's seen of him.
I think that's what I was alluding to.
No, but meaning like, so he's consciously recognizing Arthur, but Arthur won't recognize him, because when Arthur sees him, he doesn't see that person.
The personalities are so split.
Yeah, that even when the personalities take over, even like his physical appearance may change, because you don't know what kind of powers he has when, you know, in terms of what he can actually do.
because in Fight Club there are bits as well where like Brad Pitt's character and Ed Norton's character are actually physically talking to each other,
Yeah.
and then you find out later that actually that didn't happen like that at all. But I wonder if actually now we've had this conversation, actually Arthur Harrow may present him as another type of personality. So we get to the British Museum. Turns out there's lots of people there who are involved in Arthur's little cult. Ethan Hawke has based the character on David Koresh.
Who's that?
Do you remember the Waco incident?
So like a cult leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had that. As soon as I saw him, I was like, yep, culty, because he's just got, it's the hair. Just by the hair alone and, the way the hair looked in that, I was just like.
I had hair like that last year. What are you trying to
Not
do?
like that. You didn't have the hair, not quite like that. Yours was still normal. You didn't have like cult leader look about.
I was obviously doing something wrong. That was the look I was going for.
To go to the barber. So what are you having today, sir? Yes, I'm going for the cult leader look,
Listen, I'm going for the David Koresh cult leader look. I want to look like, I want to look like, I want to look like a Branch Davidian. That's what I want to go for.
And just the way he moved as well. And, again, I mean, Ethan Hawke, we know what he's capable of based on the roles we've seen him play. So, again.
Mr. Cato is disputing you, saying I did have hair like a cult leader. So, screw you. No, Dowdy, Mr. Cato should know because he was in my cult.
There you go. See, whereas I wasn't, but I just thought, oh, you look pretty. You look like an upstanding.
You are in the cult, you just don't realize it.
Yeah.
In fact, David, you're not even real. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, true. See, I'm a figment of someone's imagination.
You're actually just a figment of my imagination.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I don't think one of my personalities will wear a jacket that white, in all fairness. Who knows?
It's cream-ish. I don't know what color.
Yeah, whatever it is. But then like I love the last scene where we see Stephen in the museum at night time and we see that jackal kind of creature stalking him. And he runs to the toilets and Mark Spector's and I love the way like the reflection is different to what you're seeing. Could you look at the screen, please?
Oh, my bad. Yeah. So I was super comfy, chilling on the side. Like, yeah.
I'm gonna have to start tying you up for these. And basically, like the reflection of Mark Spector is different to what's happening with Stephen Grant, which I thought was really cool. And even when Mark's saying like, "Oh, like let me in," and then eventually Stephen lets him in, and the band and the mummy bandages start taking him over. Have you seen what I've seen?
What's up, man?
Yeah, he did die. He did die midstream. I had to revitalize him.
Yeah, it's the cult leader powers, isn't it, that just did that?
Yeah. So as he's revitalizing, kind of, you see the bandages happening with Stephen Grant. You don't see the bandages coming up on Mark Spector.
Yeah, but Manny, didn't I allude to that where I'm saying when you were talking about Arthur on the bus and you didn't recognize him, I'm saying it could be a case of that where his image, maybe he doesn't wear, he's not aware of it, but subconsciously they can actually change his image to protect themselves, because if not, you don't know how many millions is out there that could actually see him. So it's a case of he's looking right at you and you don't actually realize who you're doing. And it's funny because that could be, if that's the case, then you're saying that this has got a little bit of like momentum,
Fight
Club, then that, if that's the case and we're right with this, then they also got that from what's it? What's that? Wu Assassin. Because in Wu Assassin, the series on Netflix, he had something like that where he had all these different he had all the abilities of ancient warriors and all of that within him. But when he's fighting, whoever he's fighting when he's taking on all these like mythical beings, they don't know who his real identity is.
Yeah.
So they're just seeing the warrior that they're fighting. They're not actually seeing the regular person. So when he goes about his business, he could walk past them and they wouldn't know anything about it. They wouldn't even realize it's actually him. So maybe they got a bit of element from that in terms of that, where they use it just a little bit like that, where you could say he's sitting on the bus and he's looking at you and he's recognizing you, like, oh, that's the man who's like trying to kill me.
Possibly. But I think what the real important thing to take away from that scene is he's in a bathroom and there's mirrors on either side of him, which are reflecting each other. So you've got like this kind of never-ending stream of images. Who's to say the reflection isn't actually really what's going on, and what we're seeing is the false projection? What we're seeing is a false projection, a false reflection, essentially, of what what's happening with Stephen Grant. But really, what's happening in the Mark Spector reflection is actually a more accurate perception of what's really taking place.
Yeah, and what we're seeing is what they actually want us to see.
Or the mirrors are representing all the different personalities which Mark Spector has, like multiple personalities. And maybe if you go further into those mirrors, further into those reflections, you're seeing different people. You're seeing like the same person but dressed in a separate way, so forth, so forth. I thought that was a really good representation. Then when he became Moon Knight, I just thought he looked badass. I just thought he looked really cool.
Yeah, I have to say it's. I mean, even just before we even touch on that, remember when we first were discussing about what was coming up, and we were saying about like Moon, and I was like, I don't really know anything, so I wasn't even like excited or anything about it because I just didn't know. I was like, oh, you were saying you describe him more like a Batman, but slightly darker and more badass. And I was thinking, not quite sure. Yeah, sorry, right?
Well, sponsored by Zemo's Butler, aka the Power Broker. That's none of us picked up upon, Bav, but you picked up on it.
Yeah, that's a fact. It's probably him / aka the man who really controlled Thanos.
Yes, exactly. The real power behind the throne.
Yeah. Could you imagine if it all leads to that? Literally, like everything, like
once
kind of like 5, once the whole Marvel cinematic verse comes to an end, you find out that the real bad guy throughout history and everything was the Butler.
He is the Kaiser Sose of the Marvel
universe. It goes right back to the old saying, isn't it? Who did it? The Butler did it. Literally, it really was the Butler that did it. So. Yeah, it could be.
But I loved how the Jackal was all walking around really confident, thinking he was going to take care of Stephen Grant. Then by the end, he's clawing himself out of the bathroom to save himself from the beating he's taking at the hands of Moon Knight. And Moon Knight just pulls him back in and just carries on punching the crap out of him.
But I think it would be interesting if
Moon Knight is everything that Will Smith wishes he was.
Sorry. Y'all need to get off this Will Smith thing now. Yeah, that's so yesterday.
This is the first time we've streamed since that's happened. I've got lots of jokes which I just need to get out of it.
Yeah, next thing now he's gonna send a tweet. Keep my name out your mouth. So like, I told you.
I'm official. Well, have you seen Tony Rock's stand up?
Yeah, it was rubbish. It was just so lightweight.
No, he's actually calling out Will Smith.
Huh?
He's actually calling out Will Smith.
Yeah, but again, it was lightweight, that thing. I was just like, oh, really? Come on now. You can do better.
I thought it was pretty damning, I've got to say. I thought you can't say too much. But the guys.
I mean, I know we're digressing, but I think a lot of them, they're just going to be using that now just to sell things,
Good.
There'll be Will Smith merchandise now.
Let them. You can embarrass in front of the entire nation. God, of course you should monetize it because, boy, that people will be watching you being slapped from now to eternity. It's going to be a meme.
Yeah, man, you're not helping it now. You're going to make the man go buy a shotgun and go after anyone by the name.
Anyway, sorry. So that's how the episode ended. I think we've already discussed what we think is going to happen in episode 2. One interesting thing which I want to touch upon before we close the stream, because it's actually getting past my bedtime. We're not doing one of these again this late. Ouch indeed. Ouch. That's definitely something that Chris Rock didn't say. The writers are saying that this isn't really connected to the rest of the MCU. Now, we know they lie. They lie to progress the story or to make sure we get a bit of
protect us from ourselves from doing things like this.
Now, but the thing is though, because of the multiverse, everything is connected to the MCU. So, even if this isn't taking place within our MC universe, which I'm sure it is, it can still be dragged in. But I'm wondering if they're saying that because it's not taking place in the MCU. This is all taking place in Stephen Grant's head. So technically, it's not taking place in the MCU at all.
Yeah, it's just taking place in his one-bedroom apartment, sleepwalking and all of that or whatever. But
yeah, so I think there's a bit of mystery as well behind them saying it's not connected to the MCU. I think there's a bit more going on from that. If it is, it is connected to the MCU, but if they do try and do a bit of a crossover, we could see Kang pop up. It is in the MCU, probably.
Yeah, based on, I think it just depends, like how if they do any flashback episodes on like ancient Egypt or anything to do with that.
Exactly, because Kang is Rama Tut in the Marvel comic.
Yeah.
So you can see Kang pop up. You could see potentially Blade pop up because this is kind of the side of the universe Blade would pop up in. Do you remember the Panther God in the Black Panther? Bast.
No.
When he goes to the spiritual plane, he talks to an
Yeah.
Well, Bast is actually a Egyptian god.
God.
Yeah.
Oh.
So potentially, it depends how deep they want to go with this. You could see Bast pop up from the spiritual realm of Wakanda. Potentially, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying, but like, if it happens, there's reason for it because Bast is an Egyptian god as well. So the same way we've established that the Asgardians are a real thing, we're now establishing that all the ancient Egyptian gods are also a real thing as well. Mr. Kato is calling it. He reckons there's going to be a bit of Blade and a bit of Black Knight action in the last episode. Which is definitely very possible.
But which Blade?
Hell Hanneman.
But which Blade? Wesley Blade.
Whichever Blade you want, David, whichever one makes you happy. If it's Wesley Snipes or Mahershala Ali, who cares?
Wesley all day.
Okay, you're going to have to leave Wesley now. You might see him pop up in Doctor Strange, but you're going to have to get over it. Mahershala Ali is the new Blade. That's it. It's done. There's nothing.
Yes, I agree to that. So what's your prediction for episode 2?
There's a moon in the MCU. I think we're going to see a few bits from Mark Spector's perception more. I think
for what happened in episode 1.
A bit of that. I don't think they're going to spend the entire episode just replaying episode 1, but I think we're going to see kind of like flashbacks of him taking care of business, going to the pet shop, asking out girls, doing stuff like that. But I think we're going to see a bit more from Donna as well. I think we're going to see Donna has a slightly more interesting viewpoint as well. So I think we're done. Is there any last points you want to make about Midnight?
You could have asked me what do I think is going to happen in episode 2, but oh, David, what do you think, David P? Okay, I'll thank you for asking, Duke. Well, I think in episode 2, what we may see is a more in-depth look at what happened in episode 1 and prior to that, as in what happened, how did he come to this point? We might start getting flashbacks of when he first started.
Oh, did I ask you what I think is going to happen in episode 2?
Yeah, you did. You just didn't. You just didn't realize. Goldfish memory. You said it, but you didn't realize.
Okay, David, what do you think is going to happen in episode 2? Keep it short.
Yeah. I think we're going to see more flashbacks in episode 1, and also maybe more in-depth look at how it all started
Okay,
in terms of his interest in ancient Egypt.
cool. That's any other business? We need to. Oh, at least one of us needs to go and watch Morbius at some point. It's
Yeah,
been
I'm looking to go some point this week.
cool. I'll try and watch it over the weekend as well. It's been slated by the critics, but it's now #1 in the box office. So keep an open mind, I guess.
It can't be worse than Eternals.
Eternals was very good, actually. You're just little-minded people. Couldn't quite get it. Oh, how comes none of them can fight? How comes the leader's a medic? I don't understand. Oh, my brain, it doesn't compute. I also saw Batman.
Listen, you did. Even though you said you didn't want to see. I saw Sonic too. That was amazing.
Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. I think this version of Batman, if they go with it, is potentially better than the Christian Bale version of Batman. I'm putting it out there. I was that impressed with the movie. You know me, I'm not a huge Batman fan, I'm not a huge DC fan. I really like this incarnation of Batman. It was actually Batman taking responsibility for being a rich little kid with lots of money, taking responsibility for his family's legacy, realizing that beating up low-level criminals isn't going to make any lasting change on his city.
Well, no spoiler, please, because I want to actually see it. I haven't watched it yet.
Well, that's your fault if you haven't seen it. But I loved this movie. I thought it was, I'm all for it. I'm all for this version of Batman. And I really liked the way they depicted Gotham City as well. So, if you haven't seen Batman in the comments, I really recommend going to watch Batman. And this is coming from somebody who's actually a huge Batman or DC fan. Cool. Well,
if you haven't seen Sonic 2, go and see it. Absolutely amazing.
We're not going to talk about Sonic 2.
You're a hater. Yeah?
Yes,
that's
I am.
why Sonic's going to come and just give you what you need.